Jason Blackwood, the youngest self-made billionaire in the city, had always believed that people loved him for the wrong reasons. He didn't trust anyone who came into his life. The wealth, the fame. It all seemed like a mask, hiding the real him, a man who was once poor, desperate, and alone. He remembered the sleepless nights in his tiny apartment, scrimping to pay rent and eating scraps. But he made it out. He had a heart full of ambition, but it was also bruised. He promised himself that he would never let anyone love him for his money. No one would get close unless they truly loved him, and he was going to make sure of that. His fiancée, Emily, was everything he had ever hoped for. Beautiful, kind, and seemingly genuine. Emily was a woman who had walked into his life at just the right time. She was warm, affectionate, and constantly supportive. But Jason still had doubts. It wasn't because he didn't love her. He did. But deep down, something felt off. Maybe it was too good to be true. She had always been there when he needed her. But what if it was all an act? What if she was just after the wealth he had worked so hard to build? Jason decided to put her love to the test. A few months before their wedding, he began planning his most daring and dangerous move yet. He would disappear from his luxurious life and take on the role of a simple delivery driver. No wealth, no status. Just a man trying to survive in a world that didn't know him. He hoped this would reveal her true feelings. If not for him, then for the person he really was. The plan was simple. He'd cut off all contact, disappear from her life, and show up at her door as a delivery man. But what he didn't expect was the phone call that would turn everything upside down. As he parked the old rusty van in front of her apartment, his hand shook slightly. Emily was expecting a package from the company, and he was supposed to be the one delivering it. He knew this would be the moment of truth. As he rang the bell, he noticed her through the window, pacing anxiously. Her face brightened when she saw the delivery truck, and she hurried to the door. "Hello," she greeted him with a smile that made Jason's heart tighten. "Oh, I wasn't expecting the delivery to come today." Jason gave her a simple smile, his voice low and unfamiliar. "It's an urgent delivery. Sign here, please." She took the clipboard and signed without questioning. Jason felt the weight of the moment as he handed her the package. Her smile faded only for a second, but it was enough to make him wonder. Did she recognize him? Did she notice something was off? "Is everything okay?" Emily asked, her voice suddenly soft as if she were concerned. "You seem different." Jason kept his expression neutral, trying to hide the turmoil inside. "Just a long day," he replied. For the next few days, Jason kept his distance. He stayed in the shadows, watching her from afar. He saw how she interacted with others, how she spoke to her friends and family, and how she was when she thought no one was watching. He even overheard a conversation she had with her best friend. Emily seemed so confident about the upcoming wedding, but there was a slight tension in her voice when she spoke about their future. Was it doubt? Or something else? It wasn't until a week later that the first twist came. Emily's father, a successful businessman who had never been a fan of Jason, invited him for a casual meeting. Jason knew this was no coincidence. Emily's father had his reservations about Jason's wealth, his background, and his intentions. Jason couldn't help but feel the pressure of the test building. Was Emily's father trying to expose him? Or was he genuinely trying to warn her? That night, Emily confronted Jason. "You've been acting so strange lately. Why won't you tell me what's going on?" Her eyes held a mixture of concern and suspicion, but there was no accusation, no anger, just worry. It was clear that she had noticed his behavior, but Jason was determined to keep his secret hidden a little longer. He was ready for the final phase of his plan. The moment when he would reveal himself, his true identity. He planned to show her that he was not the man she thought he was. As the days passed, Jason's emotions became more and more tangled. Every time he saw Emily, his heart screamed to tell her the truth, but his fear of being hurt held him back. He had started to convince himself that if she loved him through this test, it would prove everything. But every second spent watching her, every quiet moment between them made him question if he was doing the right thing. Was he testing her love, or was he pushing her away?
One evening, everything took a sharp turn. Emily called him, but he didn't answer the phone. Jason was sitting in his van, parked outside a small cafe, trying to catch his breath. His thoughts were racing. Just as he was about to turn off his phone, a message came through from Emily. "I know who you are." Jason's heart dropped. He quickly typed back, "What do you mean?" "I know it's you, Jason. I've known all along." Her response was almost too calm, too sure of itself. Confusion hit him. How could she know? He'd been so careful. For a moment, Jason felt like his whole world was crashing down around him. Had he made a mistake? Was she playing him all along, pretending to love him just for the money? But her next message stopped him in his tracks. "I knew from the start. I just wanted to see how far you'd go," Emily continued. "I've been waiting for you to come clean. I've been watching, Jason. I've watched how you've pushed me away, how you've tested my patience, my love for you. And I've passed every test. I stayed. I stayed because I love you, not your wealth. I didn't need a delivery man or a billionaire to know that." Jason felt his throat tighten. For the first time in weeks, he was speechless. Emily had known all along. She had let him test her, let him play his game, all to show him how deeply she cared. But why? Why hadn't she said anything earlier? Why hadn't she just stopped him? The answer came in a simple, painful realization. She wanted him to face his own insecurities, his fear of being loved for who he truly was. Emily had already figured out his fears before he even had a chance to reveal them. She understood him better than he understood himself. As Jason made his way to her apartment that night, his mind was a mess. The thoughts raced, clashing with each other. Did he still trust her? Could he believe that she truly loved him for who he was? Or was this all part of a bigger game? When he knocked on her door, Emily opened it slowly, her face unreadable. Jason didn't wait for her to speak. He stepped inside, his voice low but firm. "I'm sorry. I should have trusted you." Emily smiled gently, but her eyes were filled with a quiet sadness. "You didn't need to test me, Jason. You just needed to trust me. But I understand why you did it. It's not easy to trust someone when you've been hurt. But now, you know the truth. I'm here because I love you. Not your money, not your success. You." Jason didn't know what to say. The words felt too small, too insignificant in that moment. But as he looked into her eyes, he realized something. The woman in front of him wasn't just his fiancée. She was his anchor. She had stayed when he pushed her away, when he tested her. She had known the truth all along and never wavered. And then it hit him. He had been so focused on testing her, he had never considered the test he was putting himself through. Emily wasn't just loving him. She was teaching him to love himself, to trust again. Without a word, Jason closed the space between them, pulling her into a tight embrace. He whispered, "I love you. I'm sorry for everything." Emily rested her head against his chest, her voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't need to test me, Jason, but I'm glad you're here now." The silence between them was comforting, but Jason knew it was time for something to change. He wasn't going to test her again. He had seen enough. For the first time, He felt what it was like to truly be loved, without conditions, without games. And as he held Emily in his arms, he realized that sometimes the only test that mattered was the one you put yourself through. Learning to trust, to let go, and to love without fear.